All right. So my name is Philip Agbese. For those of us here who do not know me, I am the creative director of the Creative Arts and Imagery Center, Visual Imagery Center, sorry, otherwise known as CAVIC. And we've been running a program that's more or less is incubating tech and creative startups, so to speak. Or in plain English, we've just been bringing together techies and creatives to see if they can collaborate. We did this last year, and it culminated in a festival, in Kavic's Festival of Creativity and Tech, where the items that were collaborated upon were showcased to the world via the festival. And this year, this is also part of the series building up to that festival again. We've had a couple of virtual sessions, and today will be the last virtual session. And then after that, we have a physical hackathon, I think, coming up next week, Friday, for those of us who are here but who did not know about it. It's a curated event, so we're selecting people who will come in over 2 days, talk to people, meet mentors in the industry, be taught a lot of skills, and then see if they can collaborate together to build items again or profile solutions that will be showcased physically in November at the festival in the hub here in Abuja. Today we have the privilege of having Ajibike Jimoh. Ajibike is an amazing lady who has been doing greatly with project management. Before this time, she's worn different hats in the course of her career. She's managed some serious hub establishments like the Ventures Park. She was, I think, the programs manager. She did so well there. And she's doing so many other things. Now she runs her own consulting firm, which is doing amazingly well. She's a project and program manager. She's also a startup advisor. She has a passion for catalyzing change and also fostering growth. She has a background indeed in the green economy. She's worked in education policy reforms. She's a social entrepreneur. She believes a lot in talent development and innovation support. And she is really dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations to reach their full potential. So her being here on this chat today, or on this meeting today, is really in line with her Give Back series. She really loves to empower people and train people and help them find balance in what it is they do. She fosters a lot of stakeholder engagements, strengthens relationships, and she's a very forward-thinking professional. She's a curious person by nature, and she loves learning, and she also loves teaching. She's in recent times, I've seen she says what she has her calling that she has discovered is to teach people, to empower people. She finds happiness the most when she's teaching. She's a strategic planner. She's a business development professional. She knows a lot about product design and delivery. And she's really going to be talking to us about a lot of things that can help you, manage um, projects. We'll be having laying an emphasis today, especially on, should I say, on art and tech collaborations, but that's not all she does. She is a project manager, and whatever skills she's going to be transferring to us today will certainly prepare us to manage projects, whether small projects, large projects, collaboration projects, business projects. But because of the nature of the people we have mostly in the house today, and because of the program we're trying to develop, which is the collaboration between the art um, industry and the tech industry, she will be laying emphasis, I think, on collaborations, project managing collaborations. So it could be collaborations between creatives, it could be collaborations between tech people, it could also be collaborations between both structures. So Ajibike is already in the house, and I'm just going to let her introduce herself. She's the lovely lady you can see on your screen, and we'll take it away from here. So Ajibike, thank you so much for sparing the time. We're happy to have you here, and you do have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm just blushing. I couldn't my video for a while because I didn't want you guys to say rosy cheeks. Well, thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to share knowledge and help inspire growth and development with youths in creative or tech industry. And as we spoke, the sport was amazing. It was nice to engage with all the beam.
I think Ajibike is trying to still, I think she's having maybe connectivity issues. But like she said, she was really amazing last year. And we'll be learning a whole lot from her today, trust me. So let's wait for her to come back online, maybe sort out the internet activity issues. We're hopeful that one day we'll get it right with the internet here in Nigeria. And if you are joining us from outside Nigeria, well, it's a work in progress. And we're just trying to get there. It's great to see quite a number of creatives in the house, people we know from way back, doing collaborations and all.
Sorry to cut you. I don't know if it's from my side, but your voice is kind of low here too.
Okay, let's see.
I do
Hello,
want to.
everyone. Oh, so
Is it any better now?
Yes, yes.
It is better now, yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Ajibike, you have the floor. Go on.
all right. Thank you very much. Apologies. So I'm not going to keep my video on too long because apparently network is trying to frustrate us this morning, but no. Yeah, but I'll share my screen shortly and then I'll get into the program of event. Mr. Philip already did justice to my introduction, so I won't bore you with more details, but you can check me out on LinkedIn or other social media platform, Ajibike Jimoh, if you want to know more about me. Yeah, so into the juice of the matter. I'll just share my screen.
Ajibike?
Yes?
Sorry, while you are doing that, let me just set some ground rules. Please, while we're at it, if you have any questions for Ajibike, please put it in the chat box so that we don't interrupt the flow while this is going on. And then when she's done teaching, we'll address the questions first in the chat box and then leave the floor open for anybody who wants to ask for advice or ask a direct question at that point in time. Yeah, thank you. Ajibike, you have the floor.
All right,
again.
thank you very much, Mr. Philip. Could you please okay. Could you please grant me sharing access because it has been disabled. Mr. Philip? Mr. Philip, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can, Ajibike. I can.
Okay. I was saying that sharing access has been disabled. If you could grant me access so I can share my screen.
I've made you co-host, so you can go right ahead and just share your screen now.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Please confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
All right. Just a minute.
If you can, just do a thumbs up in the. Oh yes, okay. So someone has answered yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Boy says he can.
All right, great. I'm trying to make it. you. Just a minute, please.
Great. Odaudu says he can as well. Right.
All right, great, great. All right.
Fantastic.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, as Mr. Philip already introduced, I'm Ajibike Jimoh, and this session is going to be about project managing art tech collaborations. As he said, the concepts that we'll be learning or discussing today will not only help you for your art tech collaboration, but it could help you in your other endeavors as well. And for context, even some of the things we'll be talking about, it may not necessarily be strange to you, but maybe now you'll be able to identify it when you're doing it, that, oh, this is actually what I am doing. And it just gives some kind of framework to your project or your endeavors going forward. So it's going to be a mutual learning experience for all of us. And at the end, we'll get to ask questions and deliberate. Okay. So, part of the things that you'll be taking away from this session today are, number one, the importance of art tech collaborations. I mean, it's already amazing that you're in this room. That means you want to create art that has some tech infusion and you want to work with other people. So you just be kind of gleaning some insight into why this is something that we should keep advocating for and seeing more of. And to just buttress that, we'll maybe touch on some examples of art tech projects just to contextualize it and broaden our horizon. And then we'll move into the project management fundamentals. So project management is very broad. So this 2 hour session will not be enough to just delve into everything project management. However, we'll touch on the fundamentals that once you are able to at least grasp those concepts, it can help you throughout your art tech collaborations and other endeavors that you want to embark on as well. We'll also learn about project life cycle and the key phases in the project life cycle. Then we'll touch on the unique challenges in art tech projects. This is to ensure that, as Mr. Philip mentioned, part of the essence of this session is to help you so that when you start building out your art tech projects, you'll be working with other people. Having understood some of the challenges that could come up, you could anticipate them and then plan ahead for, mitigating those challenges and ensure that you have a seamless collaboration during your project implementation so that you can showcase your beautiful artworks at the end of the hackathon. All right. Then lastly, we'll be learning about tools for collaboration. As I said, I mean, there are so many tools for collaboration in project management. However, we'll touch on a few, and then I'll run you through one in particular, just so that you can have something tangible to be able to utilize during the process of your collaboration while building your art project. All right, so just hold me accountable for all these learning outcomes. Yeah. I'll be moving. Right, fine. Yep. All right. So, importance of art tech collaboration. I mean, we've seen the emergence of new technology and how it has impacted art creation in different spheres. I don't know how many of us are resident in Abuja. You can just drop a message in the chat. I'll be seeing here. If you're a resident in Abuja and you visited, okay, I see Odaudu, sorry. You're a resident in Abuja, right? Oh, sorry. Chinelo, have you been to the Art Tech Museum in Abuja?
The
Oh,
Art
I see
Tech
Salama.
Museum
Yes.
or the festival? I
I went to the first festival, but I didn't know there was an art tech
Oh,
museum
okay,
in
great.
Abuja.
I mean, yeah, there's art tech museum. I just wanted to reference some of the art tech pieces that has been installed around there, but that's fine. The
Oh,
festival
you
is
mean
also a
the
reference
Discovery
point.
Museum?
Yes.
Yes, I went to the Discovery
All
Museum,
right.
yes.
Okay, great. And even the festival is also a good reference point because that's the first cohort where we've seen people come together and create pieces from, infusing art and tech.
Yes, and
And you
tech,
saw the
yes.
amazing creations that came out of it. And somebody might be wondering that, art is subjective. Why do we need to, put tech into it and let's just keep doing what has been done and all that? But I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. Tech opens your art to a whole new world, either in terms of the quality increase or even the audience reach. Say, for instance, artwork that you'd only be able to show to a local audience, or if you want to show to an international audience, you would have to travel over to that country to show them. Now, with the infusion of tech, you can be able to showcase your art from within your very bedroom. I mean, we saw the craze with NFTs a few years back. Just those are just some of the relevance or the importance of art tech collaboration, where we see, you can either use tech to um, amplify the reach of your art, or you can use it to increase the quality output of your art, or you can even use it to create something novel that has never been seen before. And that's just amazing. It just gives you that um, limitless feel, knowing that with tech you can do so much new, never before seen creation. You can reach audiences that have never been reached before. You can do. It's just the what's it called? Is the sky is the starting point, as they say, cliche as it may be, yeah, but it just gives you endless possibilities. That's the one of the importance of art tech collaboration. We see how with social media now you can from your, I mean, we've seen a lot of viral videos or images of people that create their art within their bedrooms, and then they start showcasing them, and before you know it, they're on global platforms. I think there was one that happened recently. There's this guy that did this gigantic human face, with scrap materials, and I think Dotson or something is his name, and now he's all over the world now. Those are just some of the catalytic impact of merging art and tech. Yeah. And also, I mean, irrespective of the element that you work with, because I know different artists, different creatives work with different elements, there's no restriction as to what elements can be merged with tech to, amplify the reach. Yeah. So I have the following slide gives an example of just using different elements. This particular art is water, so I'll share that shortly. But let's just run through this. So we see how social media as well as cloud-based platforms as facilitated remote collaboration for art creations. I think in the first quarter of the art tech collaboration, we had some creatives and tech people who worked together, even though they were not in the same locality. I think when we had the workshop, they all by the time they were in a project, some of them had to travel out of Abuja, and they were still able to work together because they were able to leverage tech, and I've seen one creative, Alexi Etigba. She's what do they call them? Graphic artist, and from within Nigeria here, design works that have gone on to be used in like global platforms like The Economist, like and it's really amazing to see that technology just enables that. Technology makes that possible, and yeah, it is just, one of the importance. And technology has also allowed people to be able to stream their production process, making high quality creation more accessible and affordable. I've given the instance of the Dotun guy who does the art installation with scrap metals, and I mean, very beautiful artworks. There was this lady also during lockdown. She uses scrap fabric, and creates, and she was able to showcase that on social media, and through that she became a phenomenon in the art world, and she has gone on to showcase, and those are just and I'm referencing maybe one element, or one art element genre, but there are quite a number of them. From the previous court, there were people that wanted to do this installation, physical installation, where you could do a scan and then you'll be able to see the history of, a tribe or a culture or something. And those are just some of um the beauty and the peculiarity of merging art with tech. Another one is but while all this is fantastic, we should also take note that there are some challenges attributed to technology infusion in art, which is, with more exposure, with more reach, also creates that, oh, maybe people can start replicating my art without my own, um, without crediting me, and there's also that, but we'll talk about that when we're addressing some of the challenges in art tech collaborations. Yeah, but we cannot deny that merging art with tech is powerful, and technology has been a very powerful tool for expanding creative possibilities and fostering collaboration. So, but just to it must also be adopted with caution and with care to ensure that some of the challenges or some of the risk associated we do not fall prey to those. Yeah, but while we acknowledge the importance, we should also be cautious of some of the pitfalls associated with it. Yeah, so I'll proceed in my presentation. Remember, if you have questions, please note them down, drop them in the chat, as Mr. Philip said at the beginning. So yeah, this is one of the example of ATEC project that I found really very insightful. It was a collaboration of and yeah, I want to I don't know, let me put the link in the chat. um, just a minute. I want you guys to see the art itself. Just a minute. If you're still with me, can you say yes in the chat box?
Yes, we are with you.
All right, great, fantastic. Just a minute. I want to show you guys this, because it merges 3D with sensors, with a whole lot other component, and then the art is just beautiful in itself. If I'm not able to, because the video, if I'm not able to share it, I would just like to drop the link in the chat box for you all to see.
Ajibike,
Yes.
while you're at it, I'd like to also inform you that we have students from the Bingham University participating remotely in this webinar. I can see their head of department, Baka Fori, is on the chat, but through Baka, you're speaking to quite a number of people as well.
All right, fantastic. Yes. Great to have you all here. Hi. All right, I turned on my video earlier now. I'm still sure I'll turn it on, but just because of the network, so that you can see my face as well. But I'm sure you can hear my voice and you're going along well with us. So I've dropped the link in the chat. I'll try and share my screen, and hopefully the video quality is just as good. Yeah, all right. Okay. So just the art piece is this is what is uh this is what was combined to create this artwork. And I mean, it might not be so out of this world, but I just think it's a good infusion of artistic creativity as well as leveraging technology, and the end product is fantastic. For someone who likes to be in the rain but doesn't like to get wet, you know, it just seemed very intriguing. Yeah, so they infuse water, injection molded ties, solenoid valves, pressure regulator, custom software, 3D tracking cameras, steel beams, water management
Sorry,
system.
we can't actually see what you're showing us.
Really?
Screen we are seeing and the part
Um,
with the letter.
Oh yeah, I'm
so
still going to show
yeah,
you
she's
the
going to
art
show us.
itself. I'm just
She's just
reading through some of
exactly,
the,
exactly.
yeah.
Please go on.
All right.
Chinelo, please mute your mic. And if you have a question, please leave it in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you. So just I've shared the link, so you can also check it out yourself. I'll just go to the video itself so that we can just take a look. So it's rain, but the 3D sensor motions ensures that when you're moving, as you move, the part where you are standing, the rain will not drop on you. It won't touch you, but rain is falling all around you. I mean, it's a simulation. It's not exactly rain, but yeah, it's just fantastic to see. Yes.
Is that yours?
All right, fantastic. I don't know, like what do you guys think? I mean, I think it's quite intriguing to see. Sorry, let me.
I think
uh,
Ajibike, that is so amazing. That's what we are hoping that in the very near future we'll be doing here in Nigeria as well. Projects of such dimensions, really. I think it's
amazing,
just intriguing. It's
amazing,
really
and
intriguing.
and yeah, it is, and I mean, it's just an infusion, and it's not so technical that is out of this world. It's just basic motion sensors. We have motion sensors already, like they are those ones that when you're moving, the light goes off, it comes on. It was just controlling, oh, when the water comes down and when it doesn't come down, so yeah, that's just an example of ad tech projects that you could implement. We've seen also some um somebody is muted. All right, great. So we've also seen ad tech installations where, as I said, some people create physical pieces and there is maybe a barcode you could scan, and maybe it's an artifact of a cultural reference, maybe all this our Benin, heritage images, and then when you scan the barcode, you can read about the history. Sorry, please kindly stay muted. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Philip. Okay, so yeah, that's just an example. And as I was saying regarding the physical pieces, so it doesn't necessarily have to be virtual all through. Art tech projects could just be different elements, different um, uh, I mean, the possibilities are endless. That's just it. I'll move on. I'm an art enthusiast, so yeah. Yeah. Okay, so on to project management fundamentals, because I'm watching my time. I know I have but okay. Yeah. So project management fundamentals and how we can infuse them into our art tech project. Yeah, so I'll just run you through these 7 essential project management principles. They are fundamentals that when we run through each, we would see how we can start applying them in our art tech collaborations, as well as even in our own daily endeavors, And just before I proceed, how many of us know what project is? You can drop in the chat, what you think project is all about. Anyone?
Comments in the chat box, please. What exactly is a project? Thank you. Hello. Okay. Abu Hurera says works or ranges of works to be completed within a specific time frame and for specific purposes. Adaudu says a project is a complete work of art. All right. Hello. Afolabi Miriam says a sequence of tasks that must be completed to attain a certain outcome. Indeed. Okay. All right. Bakafori says a task or job that solves a problem that can either, I guess, be personal or collaborative. Indeed. Thank you. Thank you so much for the response. Ajibike, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you
Okay.
very much for carrying on. Okay, sorry, my network.
Yeah, I thought as much. I think we need to address solving the internet problems as one of our deliverables in the country, yeah? Where we can have seamless internet without interruptions for programs like this. Anyway, you have the floor.
Please, Mr. Philip, can you enable me share my screen? Thank you.
Oh, sure, sure. Okay. Go right ahead.
All right. Thank you. And we are back. Okay, so I apparently some people already dropped on the chat while I dropped off what project is. So essentially, project is any endeavor that is intended to achieve a certain aim, which has a start and a finish date. All right, and essentially, what is crucial? What are the essential principles to consider or to take note of when implementing any project? Are this 7 on the screen here, and I'll run through each one of them just to give us insight into them. I wish the communication was number 7, so I'll come to that. But let's just start with that. So communication, I mean, as with anything you want to do in this, like, I mean, as an individual, if you're embarking on a project, which is mostly unlikely that you will be the only one in that project, then you could say maybe clear communication is not essential. But given that this particular initiative, this session we're having is around art tech collaboration, meaning a creative is probably going to be collaborating with a techie. At one point or the other, there's going to be a need for clear communication to clearly define, oh, this is the outcome I'm hoping to have at the end of this project. This is the vision that I have for this art piece we want to design. And if you're not able to clearly articulate and effectively transmit that vision to the next friend, the chances of having a fruitful collaboration will be very slim. So clear communication is critical component, critical principle to imbibe during your project implementation. The art of communicating effectively. And just to put it in plain English, as they said, keep it simple. So in project management, there's no need to start using some big grammar that will confuse the next person. There's no need to try and showcase your intellectual prowess with, some, I don't know, there's this man that is always speaking a lot of grammatical English. And oftentimes people just laugh and say, oh, this man is very funny, but most people don't understand what he's saying. Yeah, but communicating in a way that a 6-year-old will be able to understand what has been said and be able to carry on that message. I wish we were in a physical session. I would have said, let's give it a try, where somebody says one thing to somebody else, and then we pass that message round the about 24 of us on this call. And by the time that information comes back from the first person to the 24th person, you'll be amazed by how much that information has been, changed completely. And I mean, Mr. Philip says it's Patrick Obago. He's the guy that always speaks a lot of big grammar, and then you won't understand what he's saying. So clear communication is very, very, very important. Keep it simple as much as possible, because you're a creative, so there are some things that you're quite familiar with. There are some lingua, some creative nuances that I mean, because that's what you do on a daily. But you want to talk to a tech person, the way you explain it to this tech person has to be in a way that they can comprehend and understand. And it doesn't mean that, if you speak the creative language, or the the typical lingua that you would use, it doesn't necessarily mean that if the tech person doesn't understand, that they don't know what they are doing, or they are not brilliant, or they are not smart. It just makes it easy to carry one information from one point to the other, and to be able to actually implement it exactly, or at least to a T, to meet the criteria that you've set for that particular project. The same goes for the tech person as well. There are certain lingua that is very, very common in the tech industry or the tech world that a creative might not necessarily be familiar with. Not because they are smart, but it just makes it a lot easier if you can break everything down and ensure that you're not speaking over the person's head, but you're speaking and ensuring that the information comes back to you. One of the things I like to practice in project management is when I communicate something to a team member during project implementation, I like to have that person repeat what I said, just to show how they comprehended what I've said, and that can either result in saying, oh yeah, you understand, or oh no, this is what I actually mean. So that's something to take note of. We also have definition. Scope definition. And I mean, I'm sure this should not be a strange word. Let me answer that. And then you let me know if it's something that you've actually practiced in your creative endeavors or in your tech projects, where for a creative, say you want to create an art piece, you before you even start, say you work with clay as your material, before you start molding or before you gather your clay or even piece together the materials you need, you already have a vision of what you want to achieve. Maybe you want to make a pot or a cup or a spoon or whatever, or just an art a decorative piece. You would already know that in your head before you start gathering the materials. And scope definition is somewhat around that, where you know that, oh, because I want to make a bowl that can take apple and a pear, you kind of have the dimension of that bowl. It is definitely different from if you want to make a pot that can cook a cow head, so the dimensions are different. The materials that will be required will be different. The timeline required will be different. So scope definition is essentially around, the specification, the limit and boundaries of whatever outcome you want to achieve with that project endeavor, that initiative that you're embarking on. So you want to do, okay, say for instance, the example I showed you guys of the rain, the random rain, where it's within a room. I also saw that it was a place where the rain started and when the rain ended. So imagine you want to imagine they wanted to start that and then there was no definition of the boundaries. Then they cannot say the number of sensors that needed. They cannot say the number of pipes that they need to bring to ensure that the water reaches the different areas within that room. So scope definition essentially defines, what this project will accomplish. This is the boundary of the project. This is how far we are going to go. I'm trying not to pick projects and try to use projects that you can relate with. But say for instance, you're implementing a project of support and you want to support entrepreneurs in Nigeria. But in Nigeria, we have over 200 million people in Nigeria. More than half of those are youth. And so once you want to support Nigeria, the figure is like endless. Resources that will be required to touch all those people, endless. So what you then have is, want to impact entrepreneurs in Nigeria in 6 geopolitical zones, maybe 5 entrepreneurs per geopolitical zone. That way you've defined the scope of that project. So it's not limitless, it is not endless. There is boundaries. Say, okay, in Southwest we'll support 5, in North Central we'll support 5, in Northeast, Northwest, and like that. You know that there is a defined scope. That's essentially what scope definition is about. It's about defining the boundaries of the project that you want to embark on. And what that typically does for you is this: it helps you to gauge the resources that you will need to achieve that project. So for your art piece, you want to define, want to create an installation that can be placed on a table. The resources you need for those kind of installation would definitely differ from an art piece that you want to occupy an entire room. So, just being able to clearly articulate and communicate those to all the stakeholders involved in your project is very, very important. So that's what scope definition is essentially about. I mean, if you've ever had to put scope definition in practice in your project, you can just let us know in the chat. Yeah, I would like to see how you've applied those in your as I said, some of these concepts is something that you've probably had to utilize at one point in time, but maybe you were not sure what the term was for that, or but now you can say this is the framework I'm applying. I'm defining the scope of my art piece or art installation. Yeah, so let us know. I'd like to see in the chat. Anyone? Okay, I'll be watching the chat, but just because of time, I'll continue with the third principle that is essential for your art tech collaboration. Okay, as somebody has dropped something. Somebody said I should say again. Oh, okay, all right. All right, thank you, Mr. Philip. All right. So while I look out for your responses on the chat, I would continue on resource allocation. So resource allocation, I mean, just as the name implies, is essentially around how you want to judiciously utilize the resources that you have for the projects that you want to implement. So for someone who wants to create a piece I would go with the example that I started with, that you want to create an art piece that would sit on a table, and person A wants to do on the table and person B wants to do for a full room. Now, the resources that will go into putting the art piece on a table would definitely not be the same as the resources that will go into installing a art piece for an entire room, whether in terms of the raw materials, the volume of that raw material, the man hour required, because the resource is not just about the funds, it's even the time that you have to allocate to that project. So maybe this program, you have 3 months or so, or 1 month to prepare your project, but you want to embark on a design or a piece that will require you to continue working for about a year, then you know that, oh, like that the resource that you have at hand is a month. Please let's kindly stay muted. Thank you very much. Remember the rules. You can drop your comments, your questions in the chat box, and it will be addressed accordingly. All right. So yeah, so you want to work with the resources that you have at hand and allocate it efficiently. And allocate it efficiently to the project so that you can get the best result out of it. Say you have the person that has maybe 4 persons in their group working together collaboratively on delivering an art project, has an entirely different resource compared to someone that has 2 persons on their project team, and they have to plan with that in mind. Like, it has to be at the forefront of their mind to say, okay, since we have 4 persons, maybe we have 4 months, that means for each you have 1 month, so for each week of the month, person A is working on this, person B is working on week 2, person C is working on week 3, and person, and then before we bring everything together and merge it. But for someone that is working with 2-man team, and all this depends on the dynamics of your own particular project. So you have to look critically at what you want to deliver and fraction it according to the resources that you have at hand. Yeah, essentially that way you can utilize time, you can utilize funds, and all right, great. I'm seeing the comment from Toby Awofolaju. Pardon me if I don't pronounce your name right. Yeah, and he said, oh yeah, the project was an immersion tour for an institute, met with stakeholders to ascertain their objectives, which helped to streamline our workflow and focus. Great. Scope definition, fantastic. That's critical. Yeah. So yeah. As I said, at one point or the other, you utilize one of those principles, and now you can just put a name to it. And going for your projects or your art creation, you can be more strategic as you approach it, so that you clearly, the next slide, we talk more about why, approaching your project from a strategic point of view is very essential to, to giving you the best outcome. Yeah. So onto the just essentially efficient distribution of resources you have, personnel, funds, time, yeah, essentially, and raw materials, as the case may be, depending on the component of the project you want to embark upon. Then the next one is risk management. Risk management, I mean, as with many projects, you can and with the next slide, you will see all the different life cycle of your project. You would see why, we've planned. So I mean, if we've already done the planning and everything, why should anything go wrong? As someone who has been in the project management industry for a very long time, I can tell you that no matter how much you've planned, things can still go wrong. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't plan. However, risk management just ensures that you're adequately prepared. You're not waiting until the unforeseen issues arises, but you've prepared ahead to handle them should they arise. So either from experience or just from a strategic foresight point of view, you can think of the things that could go wrong in your project. Okay, like somebody that is scribbling on the slides right now. Okay, so let's just but please let's not scribble on the screen. Thank you. One of the possible risks of things that could go wrong, say for instance, you're working on art tech collaborations, you're working with people from different states in the country, or even from other countries. Maybe you're collaborating with someone that is in Kenya, is in Nigeria, you're in US, some of the risks that could happen, as we see on this call today, is internet connectivity. So maybe you agree to meet at a particular time to complete a portion of your project, and then internet connectivity happens. By the way, I have also tried to prepare my risk mitigation. I have like 3 devices in front of me. Like if internet fails me here, I want to join this other network. Just ensure that it does not impede the delivery of this session. Another thing is maybe electricity, and it could be even personnel. Say the person that you're working with, or the maybe a tech component of the project that you're working on, somebody with that skills is the only one that can deliver that for you at that point in time. But you also want to factor in, what if this person falls sick? So maybe you can plan contingencies and say, okay, if the initial or the expected time of delivery is 1 week for this particular project, let's put a contingency timeline and say, okay, let's give the person 2 weeks, so that at least we know that within 1 week, the person should be able to finish. But should in case, worst case scenario happens, the person has 2 weeks, So those are some of the risk management strategies you can adopt. And I mean, it just ensures that you are proactive. You don't wait until something goes wrong before you now start thinking of how do we mitigate this, but rather you've anticipated what could go wrong and then prepared. I mean, you could implement your project and those things don't happen, and that's great. And you could implement, and then there is those things, and it's just great to know that you already have a hat in the ring that you can pull out, as opposed to, oh, you're now doing rush hour thinking. Yeah, so that's essentially what risk mitigation or risk management is about. Yeah. So oh, sorry about that. The next uh, principle is team planning. So I talked about that a bit in resource allocation, but time planning itself is a more detailed aspect of project management to be put into consideration. The resource allocation is just essentially around how do I want to allot the time that I have? How do I want to allot the funds that I have? How do I want to allot the personnel that I have? But time planning is about the intricate day-to-day, minute by minute, hour by hour, month by month, year by year segment of the implementation of the project. So I have some artistic background as well, so I'll just cite my own experience in art creation or to. All right, great. As somebody in the comment section says, it's necessary to maintain a register of what happened, what did it in terms of risk. This can help to aggregate the likelihood of reoccurrence. Amazing, fantastic. As I said, because of experience, sometimes you can already anticipate what could go wrong, and that the only way you can track experience is by recording those experiences. Great contribution how you're dealing. So yeah, I was saying with regards to time planning, I'll share an experience. So I do fabric waste upcycling, and with regards to planning every phase of the project to ensure that every time or every time frame in the timeline of your project implementation is accounted for, and there's no downtime, because effective project management is ensuring that you stick with time stick within the budget that has been given to you by your stakeholder, and we'll come to that stakeholder and policy control in a bit. Yeah, so the time component, yeah, because I do fabric waste upcycling, if I'm meant to deliver a finished product to a customer by August per se, I know all the things that I have to do within the about 5 weeks time frame to be able to deliver that finished product in August. So starting from collection of the fabric waste, starting from then moving on to if the waste were collected from maybe not so clean, or the process of cleaning those fabric waste, then moving on to whether if I want to do patchwork or I want to do weaving, the process that is involved in weaving totally different from patchwork, and the time consideration totally different. So I have to factor each of those into my time planning to ensure that, I need to inform the weaver to be at the workshop to be able to weave these fabrics together, and because I need the finished woven fabric to then go into production at a particular time, so 3 weeks to delivery time, woven fabric is ready. So I have 2 weeks between collection, cleaning, weaving to deliver that. So that's essentially in a nutshell the time planning components principle of project management, where you have well-structured schedules. And I mean, I'm trying not to go too technical into project management, but we have things called dependencies, where if I don't finish time activity A within a particular time frame, it could affect the initiation and completion of a particular activity B, which will maybe cripple the entire timeline of the project. So time planning is actually very, very crucial. So I'll try and cite an example with create another creative project. Okay, I'll reference the example I showed on the screen, which is that random rain. So while I was not there when the installation was going on, but I can imagine, yeah, that for the water and the sensors, they are two different elements. We all know what happens when electric devices are mixed with water. It's not good, right? Like, oh, you put out your electric cables and then you pour water on it. Like, what happens? I like to see responses in the chat, please. What happens? You put your electric wire cables and then you add water. Mr. Philly says, okay, I see that. Catastrophe. Yeah. It was real water. Somebody's asking, was the water real? An illusion or probably an illusion? No, it was real water. Yeah. So you can imagine if you put water and electric cables, what happens? Combustion. Electric shock. Yeah. Yeah, right. Okay. So yeah, with that consideration in mind, then it is essential to, in time planning, to ensure that all wire cable installation have been properly, fixed and adequately covered before the water is introduced. So the time when maybe they are testing out the water flow and the movement and the motion, they've ensured that all cables have already been properly placed. They are not visible. There's no risk of the water touching any open cables at that point in time. So effective project management would have ensured that they planned way ahead in the project life cycle for the wires installation before the water is introduced. That's it. So at no point during the testing out process will there now be a catastrophe of, oh, somebody is being electrocuted because the water touches an open wire or open cable somewhere. Yeah, because there's electricity involved in the movement. They are moving, and then the motion sensors is able to detect when somebody is on that spot and the water doesn't come down at that point in time. Then there is also the thought around, oh, how does the water then leave that the floor? And I'm sure they would probably incorporate some recycling model into it to ensure that water that drops down is also maybe recirculated to the one that comes back up. If not, then the water can get exhausted at one point in time, and then the earth installation is no longer viable or something. But so part of that, every aspect and component of it has to be properly timed and planned to be implemented without lapsing into the other to ensure effective implementation of that project. That's just an example. Who wants to give us an example of a project that they've had to effectively plan out the timing so that one doesn't lapse into the other? The dependency of the project is not impacted negatively. Because I'm telling you, if you can drop it in the chat if you've had any experience with planning out your project, maybe with another element, just to give us context. I've cited the one of the fashion upcycling. I've cited the one of the random rain. So if you have any reference that you want to share, I'd like to see that in the chat. But the point is, if your dependency lapses into the other, it could either extend your project timeline. Remember, you've already allocated that, oh, we have 1 month to finish this project. We have 2 months to finish this project. and we're supposed to complete one project within 2 weeks, but one aspect of the project within 2 weeks, and that wasn't completed. That means you have to eat into week 3. That means what was supposed to start in week 3 can no longer start in week 3, and then you have to now move it into week 4. And before you know it, instead of 1 month, you've ended up using 1 month and 1 week. And with, if you remember our resource allocation, so with the timeline duration, you've probably allocated that, oh, we spend 1 million. That's what we'll spend 250,000 per week. But because you've now extended it into 1 month and 1 week, you are ending up spending 1.250 million. And at this time and age, we definitely know that is a huge stress, and you don't want to exceed the budget allocation for the project. I don't know if anyone has ever had to deal with stakeholders when you had to extend the the budget of the project. Like, that's something I know that most stakeholders do not want to hear. Like, I've hardly ever seen any stakeholder who wants to hear that, oh, we're having to extend the timeline and the budget for this project, And it's actually even not good practice as a project manager for you to elapse the time pre-planned for a project, because it's good project management practice to ensure that you can even reduce the time and the budget on the project. Yeah, so I haven't seen anyone cite any example. None of us has had to plan with well-structured schedules for our project. I'd like to see. All right. Well, I wish maybe, I don't know, I don't want to break the ground rule and say maybe they could speak. Mr. Philip.
Ajibike, it's actually your call. If you want to have it interactive and you want to discuss, please throw the floor open. It's your call, really. We really didn't want them to maybe just interrupt your flow, but if you are good with it, please shoot. Have people on mute mic and then contribute directly there if you want to.
All right, thank you very much. Won't do too much of the speaking so that it doesn't extend the time unnecessarily. But I'd like to have at least one person say something around any of these principles that they've had to implement. Anyone?
I think Olivia's hand is okay. She's muted again. I would just suggest that if you want to speak, please just raise up your hand, and then we can unmute you. That would be more orderly, so we don't have a lot of people speaking at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Philip. So if you have a comment or something to say about either time planning or resource allocation, risk management, you can lift up your hands and then you'll be unmuted. However, just to keep with the time that we have, I'll continue with the quality control. Anyone I see a hand up. All right. So with quality control, this is around ensuring, because there is time limitation, budget limitation, there is a tendency that, just to meet up with the timeline, people can then start doing rush job and quack job. So that's one of the reasons why quality control is essential. Remember at the beginning, number 2, we talked about scope definition, where we define, and somebody also commented in the chat box around the specification, either based on client requirements or the vision of the artist, where you said, this is what I want to create. This is how what I want to create should look like. Having a picture of the finished product in mind. And with techies, like, that is actually very, very critical. Like, the stakeholder engagement to just define what definition of done is for each product future that they are building is also very like it's an holy grail that shouldn't be messed with, like, because stakeholders have to clearly articulate, oh, this future, this is what you should do, this is the look, this is how you should, this is the seamlessness of the flow, and the same thing with artistic projects. You can also say, oh, this is how I want my art piece to look at the end of the day. Maybe it has to have a glossy feel after it has this roughy, just whatever the preference of the stakeholder or the client or the artist is, having that in mind, then you want to ensure that there are quality checks being done to ensure that, oh, when person A or within the allotted timeline of a particular activity is completed, before you build upon what has been done, you want to see that it meets the specification of the scope that was initially defined. That's where you now start checking to say, oh, is this I'm thinking of an example now. Maybe you're creating maybe you're creating a bag, for instance, and you want the bag to be a shoulder, what do they call this now? Shoulder and bag. Like, there's a difference in your handheld bags that you can't cross over your shoulder and the ones that you can cross over your shoulder, And so those are the scope definition that you define for the artist that is creating this. And then they are using a particular material that, okay, maybe the color mix has this barcode embedded in it that somebody can, read and scan and read about the history of where the leather was created. Yeah. So quality control ensures that by the time they are done painting whatever the color combination is on that leather, it's fitting the scope that was defined at the beginning of that project. Yeah, that's what quality control is. So it's either at the end of every activity or maybe a periodic check process that has to be decided either by the project manager or stakeholder to say that at every point in time, we want to check and ensure that what we said we want from this end piece is what is actually being done at every point in time, because it will be a really painful thing to see that the art piece has been finished completely and then you now start doing quality checks and you find out that, oh, from the onset they didn't use the material that will give us the effect that we actually wanted. That means you have to start it all over from scratch, and that doesn't really do well for everyone because you've wasted money, you've wasted time, you've wasted human resource, and honestly, it can really be quite debilitating to start projects from the beginning when you've gone so far in the process. So yeah, quality control, ensuring adherence to the scope definition or the specification of clients or stakeholders. That's essentially what quality control is about. And in the next slide, we'll talk more in depth about the point in the life cycle of a project where this comes to play. Yeah, so the next one is stakeholder engagement, which is a very, very monumental part. And you've probably heard me in the course of discussing the last 6 talk about stakeholder. And somebody's wondering, stakeholder, who is stakeholder? Who are in fact, so I'm throwing this question open to everyone now. Who are stakeholders? So for this activity that you are on today, this session that you are on today is because you are going to be participating in the art tech collaboration and showcasing at the festival that will come up subsequently. So for that particular project, that is the initiative being done by Kavik Hub, who are the stakeholders involved? I would like to hear 1 or 2 persons, and I'd like to see chat responses. So please, I want hands up. I've been talking by myself most of the past 1 hour plus. I want to hear somebody else. Yeah? Although I've heard Mr. Philip as well, but I'd like to hear somebody else other than the 2 of us. Yeah.
While they are responding, I think Baka responded to you on project planning in the chat box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Baka. I said project plan is very critical, and a collaborative project is a personnel managing, which can be a challenging task. Okay. In remote work environment, and there's the pressure that comes with clients to rush things to market. Okay, great, great. Yeah, fantastic. I can imagine. Yeah. But I want to know that you guys have been with me and I've not just been speaking over your head, and I've actually been communicating. Remember, clear communication. I want to hear from you guys. For the Kavik of Festival, the project that you guys would eventually be working on, who are the stakeholders?
So Ajibike, I need to also rephrase. Some of the people here, or practically everyone who's here, is just joining this to learn about project management. For the people who are going to be part of our in-house hackathon, we have not, it's after this session that we'll be sending the letters to those who were successful. So they will not necessarily know if they were successful in their applications or not, because this year's event is a tightly curated one. Yes, so we have just a few people that we're putting together to do it. So maybe it might be more better to rephrase the question to say, who are stakeholders really in an art or a tech collaboration, as the case may be. Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you very much. All right. Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Philip. And yeah, so for everyone on the call, or for those who have embarked on any art collaboration, I just want you to give me an insight of some of the stakeholders that you work with, like, you know, on the project that you did. And I would like to hear one person talk about the project that they did and the stakeholders that were involved. I would like to just get an insight into that. And I think I'll call names because I've seen someone that dropped something about the project. Ayodele Awolfolaju. I don't know if you can hear us and you'd like to just speak about your project. Ayodele Awolfolaju, are you still on this call? All right, while it's coming up, somebody else dropped a question, and that's regarding the example I had showed earlier. Apparently, okay, it says there's an issue. Please, can you explain the video? We don't seem to understand the concept behind it. Also, was the water in the video real, an illusion, or an animation? Thank you. All right, so the water in the video is real. It's not an illusion. It was not an animation. I've dropped the link yet again in the chat. You can, I don't want that to dominate the conversation because it was just an example to show an example of art installation that had tech infusion, and just to broaden our horizon so that we don't think maybe it's only physical installations that is visible pieces that are interactive pieces could also have the components of art tech infusion. That was just why I cited that example. I've dropped the link yet again. So basically what the art installation is about is, it's raining, but the idea is you walk into the rain, you get drenched. Most people want to see and enjoy the rain without actually getting drenched. And this art installation with motion sensors, has made it possible that you could walk into the rain in a room, I mean, because it's an art installation, and it's raining all around you. But the point where you're standing, there is motion sensors there. So the rain is not dropping on you. It's not like real rain, it's an artificial rain that has been created, but it's real water. Yeah, because it's in a room. I don't know if that clarifies it a bit, but you can just watch it again. And if you actually click on this link, there is an intro part to the artwork so that you can see what went into that production. And I'll move on from that. Okay, has anyone raised their hands? None. Oh my God, why? Idly has left. Oh yes, it's no longer on the call. Okay, I see somebody has dropped something. Oda Uju. It says, I work with Nigerian Army Hospital projects. Our practice as a team has been to have conversations with AI about the outcome of the project, mostly paintings and murals. We know something blocking my view. We know the project is complete if we get the results that are far or better than what we envisaged. We lost and consequently other resource, but it was worth the effort. Okay. I would have loved if you could unmute and maybe speak first, because I'm not sure I got the gist of your message.
I think what he was trying to
Or
say.
that would do. Is it possible? Yes.
I think what I was trying to say was that he works with the Nigerian Army, with a project with the Nigerian Army. I think for their hospitals,
Yes.
and their practice as a team was to have conversations directly with AI about the outcomes of the projects, mostly maybe putting up paintings and murals. And then they would know the project is complete if the results they got eventually were at par with what I guess the AI told them, or if it was better than what they had even planned. But they lost quite a number of, I guess, resources, but it was worth the effort. I think that's what he's saying. But if he could also unmute his mic,
Yes, hello.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You have the
Yeah,
floor.
I Eduardo. Okay, yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Philip, for the explanation. I would just like to know maybe what the AI gave them back was maybe principles or guidelines or framework that they adopted, and yeah.
I think after him too, you can also see Baka's response, which I think makes a lot of sense. But
All right.
Jimly, please, you have the floor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ajibike. It's been a very, very great time with you, your insights and all the ideas you've been sharing. Thank you so much, Philip, for putting this together. Philip has said it all. I was very, very apt. It sounded like somebody who is on my team and who has been on the project. Well, yes, and so it is this artistic works that we were putting up in the hospital, medically themed art, therapeutic art for the interiors of the hospital. There are so many ideas out there. Traditionally, it has been done by artists working on site and using hand-painted stuff and putting up. But with the era of AI, and with the, of course, with the technological age we're living in, we felt that we could harness, the resources available to AI to try and improve the process of our work and also the quality of it in terms of like from design to execution and to evaluation. And that is what we did with all the main pieces that we had there. Many of them ended up by being done, I mean, like the majority of them ended up being done by individual artists using their skills on site. But the salient thing I would like to point out is that even though it doesn't betray, you understand, like the examples that you gave from the beginning, infusing that technological aspect of it you don't get to see the technology there. It's just an artwork, but we are more interested in the collaboration, yes, between technology, that is AI, as a scaffold to bringing about the end product that we are seeking to deliver. So yes, we have this project spread across the country, so but it's still emerging, and I believe that somehow we'll keep you posted about how it evolved. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much for citing that example, Doado. It was really, really insightful to hear. And I mean, trust me, yeah, you may not see the physical tech component, but as you said, that infusion of AI into your creative process is also an art tech collaboration, and it's an art tech piece, if you ask me. Yeah. So there are, as I said, there are so many dimensions, there's so many use of different elements to merge with tech to be able to now deliver your end piece. So it doesn't always have to be a physical product, which is why I was very into the example of that ring, which is not necessarily a physical piece, but it's an interactive piece that has the art and the tech component. Yeah, so great one. Thank you. And I see Baka's comment. I built a VR museum for a tech event in 2015. I believe the stakeholders of the project are the event organizers, and as I owe them a good job, and the general public that will consume the product as well. Fantastic. Yes, essentially, that's what I wanted to hear from someone. I wanted someone to tell me about their stakeholders, because oftentimes we might think, oh, only the people that pay us for the art piece or the artwork are the stakeholders. But he said those who would also consume the art, maybe the audience that would get to see the art installation, the VR museum, were all stakeholders to be considered in the artwork. And going back to Odoado, he talked about art installation in an hospital. So the stakeholders that are paying them to create the art, the people that are paying them to install the art, they are stakeholders. The team, he said different artists came together to work on that particular project. They are stakeholders because engaging with them, if one of them doesn't deliver what they're supposed to deliver, it could impact the project negatively. It could impact the outcome. They are stakeholders. The patients within the hospitals that will get to interface with this artist. Remember, I said that they were trying to create art that was peak. They are stakeholders. And I can imagine maybe they had to consult some medical personnel. Great. I see everybody's responding now. Great. I knew that. I just needed one person to speak. Yeah. All right, great. So the stakeholders, maybe they need to consult some medical personnel or psychologists to just get some, or maybe some colors will be triggering for some patients and whatnot. And they took that into account. Those people are also stakeholders. So essentially, stakeholders are any and everybody that will be impacted by that project being implemented. Anybody that could impact and will be impacted. So he mentioned that it was a military hospital, for instance. So I'm sure military personnel are on ground. Maybe if they are bringing in their materials into the military hospital, and the military personnel saying, no way, you're not going with this maybe that particular equipment they are coming to use. It looks like a weapon. And they said, no way, you're not bringing that in. The military personnel as stakeholders, they could affect the outcome of that project. So the reason I'm saying that is because I want to explain this number 7 around stakeholder engagement. Because first, before you can engage stakeholders, you have to identify who your stakeholders are. And oftentimes, as I said, what we usually consider are the person that is paying us to deliver the product, and maybe the person that will use the product. Those are the people that we tend to consider most of the time. But it's good to also consider those who are external, those who all will be impacted by that project. So as I mentioned, if the military personnel says, no, you cannot bring this equipment into the hospital because this is not allowed. Our rules say you cannot bring this in. At the end of the day, they might resolve it and say, oh, we explain it away and then they allow enter. But it could impact the timeline of the project because you don't get to use the equipment at the time you need. So stakeholder engagement is being able to map out everybody that could impact your project positively or negatively, and anybody that will be impacted by your project, so that you can plan ahead how you will engage these stakeholders. So part of planning ahead could then be for that military hospital engagement, since you know that you are bringing in certain number of equipment, certain number of personnel are coming, you can already plan to meet with this personnel, with like the military personnel, the medical personnel, the patients, and just kind of let them be aware of all the aspects that the project will, all the activities that the project will the activity that will be involved in the project delivery, so that nothing comes up and surprises them that will now cause an obstruction that could impede the timeline, the budget, or the human resource on the project. Maybe for some of the military environments that I'm familiar with, to enter, maybe they will ask you to show ID card and whatnot, so that while you're preparing your personnel, also you already ensure that they have the necessary ID cards they need to show. You know, there's no cause for disruption during project implementation, and that's why stakeholder engagement is very, very, very critical. Very, very, because thank you very much, Udad. Chinelo says stakeholders are all those involved in the making of an artwork or piece from its creation process to its realization. So even bringing it down to, oh, you want to create your ceramic piece where you need your clay, you need your, you know, I don't know what the resources that you require. But let me use another example that I'm quite familiar with.
A clean where you can fire the clay, a turning clean where you can rotate and create the clay.
Thank you, Mr. Faith, for that help, for that rescue. So yes, so for the furnace where you need to get the clay to add in, you know, you need the person that will collect the charcoal, the person that will be firing up the furnace. You know, it might seem like, oh, it's not. I'm one person. I'm the critical stakeholder. I can manage everything, but you can imagine it could be one very seemingly inconsequential stakeholder that could topple the entire implementation of that project. So all stakeholders are very, very important. Yeah. However, you know, in project management practice, actually, you get to put your stakeholders in stratas, and the engagement that you have to have with each of them, you know, it differs. But all those will only be possible when you've identified every single stakeholder from beginning to end. So take, for instance, in some major projects like road constructions, you know, you would have, somebody's asking if you can have a copy of this presentation. Yeah, you would have it. Yes. So you would have different stakeholders that could be that could impact the project negatively. There was one video interview that went viral a couple of months back on social media, where this beautiful young lady was asking one of the, was it the minister, about an agency if they had given the certification necessary to implement the road construction at this time. I think it's around this Atlantic Road, or what they call them again. This, oh, pardon me, I'm citing examples. But the point is, it just is an agency. I mean, an entire government wants to build a road, but they're asking, has this agency signed off on this particular requirement that is needed to be able to implement that road construction? And as much as the entire ministry sat down for a press conference to let people know that they are constructing a road, but somebody was raising a question that was actually very valid, that that agency could say no, they are not certifying that this road can be implemented, and it could impede the construction of that road. So stakeholders identification, very, very important. Then now mapping how you want to engage those stakeholders, also very, very critical. So it's in the process of stakeholder engagement that you want to define clearly your, oh yeah, thank you very much. Somebody saw that video. Aha, the Arise reporter who questioned the transport minister. Yeah. So, you have to have the is in your stakeholder engagement that you have the scope definition, where you are now for scope definition, typically it will be the person paying for the project, that is telling you this is what I want at the end of my project, or as the case of the Kavik Up Festival is concerned. So maybe a critical component of the scope of Kavik Up Festival is that we want art installation that has some tech components in it. So, if you come and deliver a art installation that there is no element of tech in it, then you've not fulfilled the scope definition. So that's a stakeholder to consider, and then there is considerations for, the person that you even get the raw materials from, because it could be that maybe the raw materials you want to use for your own particular project is hard to find. So consideration of that stakeholder and how you want to engage the stakeholder, say you have to import that particular component of your project, your art space, you have to import it, you have to consider all the variables that could, just ensure that stakeholder is effectively managed and you achieve your end goal at the end of the day. I mean, I could go on and on, but and another aspect of stakeholder engagement is clear communication, where you have to keep them informed regularly about every aspect of the project. There are some that you have to inform more regularly than the other. Sorry. And there are some that, it's just at the point of engagement with them. Take, for instance, that transport minister, for instance, it was just to get that accreditation from the agency that the road is good to implement. That was the only point of engagement. After that one, the only other people that he has to continue engaging with are the actual workers on the road, the contractor that is implementing or that is constructing the road. So yeah, so identifying them, very crucial, and then you can now map out how you want to interact with them. How often do you want to engage with them? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it daily? You want to engage with them, so that's typically it around the stakeholder engagement. And I'll move on very quickly now because time is now saying up. All right, the next part is project life cycle and key phases. And I think in the course of explaining those project management fundamentals, which I told you that is the most important part of this conversation, because you want to ensure that when you are doing your projects going forward, when you're working on your art tech collaboration, you are applying all this framework, and it just helps you to get the best outcome, as opposed to winging it. And I like what Oduaku said around their project, that maybe they didn't put in all these frameworks. That's why they encountered the losses that they did during their project implementation. Because you can imagine if all the principles that I've talked about were applied accordingly, maybe the project losses would have been minimized to the barest minimum. Yeah. Okay. So project life cycle. We have 5 project life cycles that every project will have to go through at one point in time. And the name is very explanatory, it's self-explanatory. Initiating phase, which is essentially where you meet your stakeholders and you define what you want to do. So if you're working with your tech team members or your other creatives, this is the point where you're sitting down and saying, this is what we want to build, this is how I want to build it, this is what we want to achieve at the end of building it, and then we say, is this actually possible? This element that we need to import it, and dollar is very high now, can we afford it, or should we just do a different project? That's your initiating phase. And then the planning phase is where you now start developing a detailed plan, where you start having all these parts where I'm saying you are defining the scope. You are putting, oh, this is the resource that we have. This is how we allocate the resource. We have 5 people. This is how we use our time. We have 5 million. This is how we use the 5 million. We have between now and December to deliver it. This is how we are going to split. So your planning phase is where you go into the details. You start saying, okay, during the implementation, this risk can come up. How do we manage this risk? How do we go about it? How do we like that? That's where your planning phase is where all these principles comes to play. You start defining it clearly, and it might seem very rigorous or very redundant. That, oh, why do I have to go through all this stress? But I tell you, planning your project before you embark on the project is the best service you can do to yourself. And I started off at the beginning of this session where I talked about if you're an individual going through your project, you can wing it and say, yeah, it's just me. I'll just start. Whatever happens along the way, I can wing it. I can wing it. But the moment more than one person is involved in a project, you only have control over yourself. You don't have control over the other person. And planning is what ensures that you get the best out of each other because you're working with a blueprint. You can imagine if somebody just decides to start a foundation and start building the house, and then is when he finishes realize, he didn't put toilet, neither did he put door or window. How will he enter the house that he's building? But what makes it possible for anybody to be able to erect a good structure that is functional is that they have a blueprint. They have something that they are looking at and going back to and say, oh, are we doing it the way we said we would do it? Your plan is what guides your implementation. Any project that you embark on, I tell you, even scripture, because I'm a Christian, I can refer to scripture, pardon me for those who are not Christians, but I'm sure even most scriptures, whether Bible or not, will say you should plan. Like, nobody goes to the battlefield without first counting the cost. You want to first ensure that what you are setting out to do, you can actually accomplish it. And the only way you can do that is by breaking it down, making it granular, and saying, okay, yeah, this is how I go about it, this is how I go about it. Oftentimes, yeah, you might not necessarily do everything 100% the way you pre-planned it, but guess what? The project that you planned are going to give you more successful outcomes than the ones that you didn't plan. And you can quote me on that anyway. So, and then you go into your time planning as well, where you now structure, this is what should happen between week 1, week 2, then week 3, we can already start this one. And then you also go into your quality control to say, okay, based on what we want to do, this is when we start checking to see if we are getting results we pre-planned. And then your stakeholder management as well. Then the monitoring and controlling part, this is also part of where you are looking at, oh, from the beginning, we said this is the specification we want to achieve. So monitoring and controlling is essentially your quality control measure, where you are now looking while the project is being implemented, while the artwork is being built, while the edifice is being constructed, you can now start looking and saying, okay, are they doing this wall the way we said we would do it? Or if they are not, okay, can we quickly correct it and not impact our timeline negatively? So that's your monitoring and controlling. So you're monitoring what is being implemented, you're monitoring what is being created, and you're now controlling to say, oh, no, it doesn't look like what we planned. How do we correct this? Oh, okay, if you cannot correct this, how do we now, because they say every mistake in art is, creativity. So how do we now make it work for what we need? Yeah, so that's your monitoring and controlling. And we also have execution. So what happens most of the time is after your planning phase, execution and monitoring and controlling happens simultaneously. What that means is that while you're executing, you're also monitoring and controlling. While you're executing, you're monitoring and controlling. While you're executing, you're monitoring and controlling. And then we have the closing out phase. And pardon me if I'm speaking too fast. You can let me know, please. And then you have your closing phase. This is where you now say, we finished all the components of our artwork. Your closing phase for a Kavik Up festival will be the showcase event where you get to show off what you've created at the end of the day. For some other projects, to now be when you deliver the project and hand it over to the stakeholder that has paid you for that project, maybe your client. You're not giving them, this is your art piece, so they've checked and seen, oh, it fulfills all the scope that we defined at the beginning. Thank you very much. This is your balance, or this is your money, and you can close out on that particular project. So that's pretty much the life cycle. And yeah, onto so some unique challenges in art tech project. I think during the course of our conversation, I've already mentioned a few of these, so I won't flog it too much. But now we have, I don't think I've exhausted the time for question and answer, but I'm sure Mr. Philip will still grant us time. Yeah, so we have budget constraints.
See, so Ajibike, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
What we're supposed to have done was do 2 hours, and then we're going to use like 30 minutes for questions. But because you've made it like really interactive, I think we can just go and see if we exhaust it. Our time, I think
All
we
right.
have left probably like 20 minutes or thereabout. So it's your call on how you want to run with it. But I'm sure a
Okay.
lot of people
This
would
is
want
my
to ask
last
questions
slide,
directly.
actually. Oh, no,
Oh,
sorry.
fantastic. Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
okay. I was going to say this is my last, but I remember there's one more where I wanted to demo Trello, but I think we can do it. It would have been nice to demo it. So,
We can still do the
yeah.
demo, I think.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. No problem then. I'll just make sure I don't exhaust beyond 15 minutes after. Yeah. All right. So for budget, for some of the challenges that you could have in your ad tech project is budget constraint, time constraint, technical limitation, client requirements, and maintaining your artistic integrity. Now, I'm sure we have creatives in the room, we have technical people in the room, and we have people who have implemented one form of project at one point in time or the other. So you can relate some of these challenges. And part of the reason why planning is critical, planning your project is critical, is it helps to reduce the chances of these challenges. So if you've already planned from the onset that I have 1 million, we have 4 weeks, we need to get social resources to implement this artistic work, then you can effectively allocate your budget with that time consideration to ensure that you don't overshoot the budget and you are able to deliver on the outcome that the client has asked for or that you envision at the beginning of your project. The same thing with time. Once you're able to plan that this is the time that we have, so to be able to deliver the result that the client wants, or to be able to showcase our art at social date, we have to complete it within this timeline. Therefore, we need to do A by this time. We need to do B by this time. We need to do C while we are doing B, just to ensure that we meet the timeline. So, because there are sometimes you can do certain things simultaneously. It doesn't always have to end one before you start the other. That's what I referred to as dependencies earlier, but I didn't get to go into that in detail because we don't have all the time in the world. Yeah. So then there's technical limitations. So I glossed briefly on that one, where you want to use a particular tech component in your production, but you realize we don't have this thing in Nigeria, we have to import it. So, and dollar is very high, you're looking at that. It's in your planning phase that you can decide that, okay, instead of, since we can't afford to import this because of dollar and maybe our budget or even our time will not allow us to order it and wait for it to arrive, we can then decide to say, okay, let's do local, what they used to call that thing, where somebody locally can develop a
local fabrications.
Yes, local fabrication. You can then do maybe an improvisation of that particular technical component. So, the point is, when these challenges arises, don't let it be the end of your project. Rather, because you have planned adequately, you can look for alternative resources that you can use to, still deliver the quality of art piece you want to create. So client requirement. So this one, as I said, if you plan effectively, you sat with your stakeholder, they defined their scope from the beginning, there shouldn't be any challenge with their requirements, because then from the beginning you've understood what they want. When the only other place where challenges will come is if your client is asking for the moon, but they don't have money to afford is it the Tesla's what's that, SpaceX. They cannot afford the space on SpaceX, but they want the moon. So then you can make them see that, oh, based on the budget you have, you cannot get this outcome that you're looking for, and except you're willing to increase your budget, you can get this. Or you could even be, except you want to increase the timeline, you cannot get this. So those ones can easily be mitigated by just being very realistic with your client. And that requires you to know your onions. You have to know your own work to be able to tell your client that what you're asking for is actually not feasible based on so and so and so and so. And you can now come to a compromise and say, let's do this instead. It still gives you the outcome you're looking for, maybe not to the specification that you're asking for. Yeah. So, and then maintaining artistic integrity. I mean, uh, because as I mentioned, while talking about the importance of art tech collaboration, that yes, art technology has made art scale and increase the reach of the audience reach for your artistic creativity, but there's also that risk of, oh, now your work can easily be plagiarized because now more people are seeing it, or maybe it's on a platform that other people have access to, and or maybe you don't know how to now continue to make money alone from your ingenuity. So one of the things that you can do for yourself is to educate yourself, to protect your creation, to protect your creativity, to ensure that either maybe it's around patenting your novel creations, or using technological resources that can impede the duplication of your work without your permission. So we have technology like blockchain that ensures that nobody can alter your creativity or your artwork without you endorsing it or something. Yeah, so that just the point is just educate yourself, because there are so many elements and I may not be able to touch on every element of your specific creative process. Educate yourself, ensure that you maybe even consult legal personnel to just show you the best way to protect your artistic work. And with regards to not compromising on your own integrity as an artist, ensuring that you are very, very diplomatic in engaging with your client, so that while they have their specification, if the specification is going to make you compromise on your own artistic integrity, you also want to clearly outline, oh, the reason why you're engaging me is because of my ingenuity, and if you want me to do it this way, to alter my creative process. And yeah, just you have to I know creatives even founders these days, they don't like to be salesperson, but everybody has to be a salesperson. You have to be able to negotiate your way through life, because people will always want you to do what they want, but in order for you to get what you want out of things, you have to be able to negotiate, and it's all about salesmanship. So yeah, that's essentially the unique challenges that is associated. If there's any other one, you can drop in the chat, and maybe if we have sufficient time, or maybe afterwards, I can respond to you guys through Mr. Philip. All right, so some tools for collaboration. We talked about some techniques and some, frameworks that can guide your collaborative engagement in your project, because when you're working with multiple people, you can having all this framework or principles in place ensures that everybody knows what is to be done at any point in time. Somebody talked about working on project and then being in remote locations. You can imagine if you are working with someone and there's no plan. Person A is in Abuja, person B is in Lagos, and you want to work on a project together, but there's no plan for you guys to be looking at and saying, okay, are we on the same page? Are we doing the same thing? So it's just essential to have that plan in place first. Then you can now leverage any of these tools that is here. That's why I put it last, even though the topic is program managing ad tech collaboration. I put this last because you cannot leverage a tool if there's no framework to utilize from the onset. Yeah. So I'm sure we're familiar with most of this software: Slack, Asana, Trello, Basecamp, Jira. Who wants a demo of Trello? Because our time is gone now. Or should we just take question and answer?
I would suggest that we take questions and answers because our time indeed is spent. However,
Yes.
if we have links to these tools, if you also dropped your details in the chat box, people who have questions could reach out to you, but they could also reach out to us directly as well if they want to know more about the tools, I think.
All right, that's fantastic. I agree. So yes, I'll drop the link in the chat and my details as well. People can also reach out to Kabiko. Thank you very much. So the floor is open for question and answer. I promised to show my face earlier.
Yes, you did. Ajibike has been amazing as always. It's what it is. I think we have okay, Salamatu is clapping her hands, but Chinelu has her hands up. So Chinelu, please unmute and then ask your question. Thank you.
Hello. Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Thank you for the presentation. It was pretty interesting. I think one of the things I found to be, I wouldn't say is sometimes it could be an obstacle, but largely a challenge when working with a group of people, especially in the art tech, because I participated in the last one, is we are largely told to work with people. You come up with ideas, with your group, and then you are supposed to limit your ideas to the talents of each person in the group, right? And so sometimes this kind of it kind of like has a way of limiting one's imagination and what wants to do, just because we want. I'm talking from experience now, just because we want to tailor everything to the skill that everybody in the group possesses. And of course, you also have the challenge of funding, because if the funding is not coming in kind, where you can outsource and pay for whatever other skills you may need to do your project, especially if it's a project that you want to do well, and that becomes another problem. So my question is, how do you do that when you come up on such challenges? And then I also happen to also be part of a collaboration too, where yeah, I mean, the money wasn't there, but at least it's happened in a way that we all had to pull in resources now to get what we want, to get the additional thing that we wanted outside. So I saw that as a much better experience, because it just has to do with just funding to get a particular thing. But when it has to be with outsourcing another talent into the group, especially a key talent that you don't have, so it can end up kind of like affecting the project and maybe limiting the group's imagination, or should I say, yeah, it could be imagination to do for bigger things they might want to do. So what do you do when such opportunities come up?
Ajibike,
All right.
do you want
Thank you,
me to
Mr. Philip.
respond to this before you then respond to it?
Okay. All right. No problem.
So I'm just thinking that based on what Chinelo asked, which is a very good question, especially drawing from our last experience, I think that's even the more reason why we need to take the project management course very critically and take it like seriously, because from the key components you've really outlined today, if we measure those parameters against what maybe the groups were doing or what they were trying to put together, did they actually tick those boxes properly? When you talk about maybe managing resources, finding a project that resonates with everyone. You've talked about the stakeholders involvement. Was that playing out in those projects? Was it something that had proper timelines? Were the options, were the deliverables understood from the very beginning? And were there enough resources to deal with that? I think some of these things, based on what you've taught and what I've really learned from today, is that if you don't get these critical things in place, it's almost like a given that the project is likely to fail, no matter how great it appears. But that's just my 2 cents on it. So please contribute as you so wish now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Philip. I mean, you've already adequately answered the question. I would just like to maybe add on something, which is, I get the as a creative myself, I get the nudge to want to do something out of this world, but you have to also realize that for this particular project, the one that you referenced, which is called one, and maybe the subsequent ones, there's a time constraint. There's also a scope constraint, because there's a the essence of the program was to collaborate with people, and the desire to create something ingenuine based on your own vision has to, give in to that need to collaborate with others at whatever level that they are on. Yeah. And remember, I talked about salesmanship, where you need to negotiate your way through this world. Yeah. So it's either you needed to have sold your own vision a lot more to the group that you were in, or they could not see what you were seeing. Yeah. And another thing about that is, for different points in life, you can implement something big in a small way. It's not every project that has to be. I like most of the artists that we now see as world proclaimed, they didn't all start out on that platform. They started with something that maybe they use, like I gave examples of some projects like that trended on social media, and I'm sure they used resources that they could easily access. They leverage expertise that was not so cost intensive, does not require so much technical prowess, and then based off of delivering excellently on those ones, they were now able to leverage that, and now they have a global stage. I'm sure if they want to implement projects that require them to fly in somebody from Paris or whatever, they can do that now. So you can do something big in a small way. Just keep that at the forefront of your mind and be able to sell your vision more effectively so that others can buy into it. Is as Mr. Philip said, around stakeholder engagement. Like, you have to know who those people are on your team and see how you can get them to bring out their very best, and maybe marry what is readily available to be able to deliver what you want at that point in time. And I think your second question, I think that it's merged together essentially. I hope that addresses it for you. And
do we have anyone else who has questions, who want to ask a question, who has a comment, before we more or less wrap up the session? If you do have any questions on anything project management, this would be the time to do so. I was asking Baka and his team, I'm not so sure he saw my message. Baka, would your team members like to respond, or do they have a direct question? This would be an opportunity to ask now. I think Chinelo still wants to ask a question, I think. Okay, so while Baka is getting back to us with his team members, Chinelo, please go ahead.
Yes, my question is it's around, so if you're carrying out a research project and the person didn't give, you are not given a specific scope to work with, just a topic, and then you're asked to research around that topic. And at least I'm using myself as an example. So I set out, first of all, looking at the scope of the topic, what it would look like, and then thinking of all the things that I would need in terms of working tools, and then of course look at my labor costs, and then looked at what's this other thing I looked at? So I mean, I don't know, is there anything I need to do further than this, especially to ensure, and then of course my time, because I was given a timeline and I had to map out how and what to do within this timeline and when to do it. So so my question would be like, is there anything further that I need to do in between this to ensure that I do deliver as I've been asked to within the time frame?
I would think first and foremost, Chinelo, that you've not defined the parameters properly. For something like a research of the magnitude you are looking at, no matter how big or small anyway, you want to be setting about the scope. What are the scope? What are the terms? What are the deliverables? Because how do we then know that you have achieved what it is you want to do or what you set out to do if there are no properly laid down parameters of what the project should entail? So it would seem to me that you appear to be opening yourself up already for some trouble. It would be better if you defined appropriately the period this research is supposed to cover, what exactly the research entails, so you are very certain about what your deliverables are from the beginning. You're not doing some trial and error where you try and then you bring it back and say, oh no, this is not what we're interested in. We would rather you went in this direction. I think those deliverables, those scopes, the scope of the project is very important. But I'll defer to Ajibike's superior argument. So Ajibike, please, let's hear you.
At least I know somebody was listening during my session. So yes, definitely you've already answered a question adequately. I think another thing she hasn't considered is as stakeholders. Like, yeah, you want to do the research, you know who is giving you the assignment to conduct, but who are the target of your research? Who do you need to engage to get your research statistics? You know, all those, you need to consider your stakeholders and map out how you want to.
I think yeah, he did mention the people that he needs mostly from, he said, the scholars, you know, which I'm getting into, but I just wanted to know what else I need to do in terms of ensuring that I deliver properly on that. He's mentioned the stakeholders that I need to get information from, but I was just thinking in terms of like how broad, how broad it is meant to be or not to be so broad. I mean, just to ensure that I
just so that we
properly.
don't the conversation long, I'll drop my email in the chat box. You can send me a message. You can talk about this a lot further because I think it's more extensive than this. And somebody is asking in the chat, in terms of the partnership between artists and tech, where it seems not possible on a desired project, what's the alternative? Because at the last festival, most teams didn't understand and proposed ideas from the tech guys. Same with the art guys. With the short time frame, can all the tips on the project management work be used? So yes, the tips given on project management can be applied to your individual art projects. It can be applied to individual tech projects, and it can also be applied to tech and arts based projects. So for your reference to the previous festival, where it seemed like some of your team members didn't understand the proposed idea, remember I talked about those principles that you need to bring to bear now, which is, and I like what Kavikop is doing now, which they are letting you have this foundational knowledge and understanding before you are even merged with other people, before you are selected, so that it can, what you've learned here can influence how you approach your engagements going forward. One of the key things I can take away from this is you said your team members the tech guys did not understand the arts guys did not understand the tech guys. Maybe you were not communicating clearly enough what you want, because as I said, tech people have their own lingua, they have their own way of discussing or naming or calling things, and it's not necessarily easily comprehensible for the creatives. And the creatives have their own way of seeing what they want to deliver at the end of the festival that may not necessarily be comprehensible just off the top of the hat for the tech guys. So it's about simplifying these things. And it's not, simplification can be diverse. It could be either be language simplification, or maybe you need to what was you need to create a framework that they can see, a blueprint that they can see. Maybe you want to create an artistic installation, but you can do a draft, maybe an imagery that they can see, or a simulation that they can see, that can better communicate what you're trying to achieve to them. And just be open-minded as well, because the essence of the festival itself is to broaden the horizon of creatives, to see that beyond just creating things, without tech infusion, you could leverage tech either to make your work more just whatever addition that you want to give to your work, whatever upgrade you want to give to your work, either in terms of audience reach or the dynamics of what tech can offer you. It can be a bit strange, or change is always difficult. You're used to doing things a certain way, so that could be that friction that is making it difficult for you guys to make a headway. So just being open-minded, communicating more effectively, just explore different means. As I said, it could be language, it could be about imagery, it could even be just explore the different auditory senses to just ensure that you communicate adequately what you want, and they also communicate what they want. And for some of it, you may still not comprehend until you actually see the end product, especially tech products. When they are building software-based product, it's until the finished product is done before you actually see what most tech guys are talking about. So it's another thing is to trust the process.
I think one last question, Ajibike. Although I don't know if Ayokunle wants to ask a question, but there's a question here, I think, from the student community that says, and I think they're asking about negotiation skills. As students, how do they get to negotiate fairly on their projects that they may be engaging on? And how do you know the right amount to charge for services? But I'm going to quickly just attempt at answering this. In the first place, you need to look at what we're going to putting together that project, which I think Ajibike has mentioned before. What will be the various components of the project? You want to be sure that you know what is going exactly into the project, so that you do not undercharge, and then you can't complete the project, or overbill as the case may be, and then outprice yourself out of the market. So it's good to research completely and outline clearly what the project will entail, the duration of the project, what the project sets out to solve, who it is addressed to, what it will be used for, where it will be deployed. Those things are really very essential, so that you do not shoot yourself in the foot. You choose, you can price and then know what the pricing, well, set up a proper pricing mechanism. I guess maybe that is also what you want to know. This is the complete cost of the project. What are the, can you put a markup on it in terms of profits? How many percentage would become profitable? And to do this, you also would have found out, like I said, the complete scope of the project, the people who will be involved, the stakeholders who will be involved in realizing the project, what their charges would be to you who is putting together the project and all. It's not, so it's something you must do your homework. But I'm very sure that if you even went back on all Ajibike has spoken about, it would truthfully help you even in your pricing when you want to talk about pricing projects going forward, because you will sit down and look at all these various components and then tick those boxes one after the other. Ajibike, thank you. If you have anything else to say, that's fine.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Philip. I have nothing to add. You did done justice to the question. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone is.
I don't know if someone else is asking a question, but at this time, if no one else, I think we've done as amazing as always. I've learned so much more today than I think I have in quite a while as well. And I was in the other session then. So I myself am going away with these lessons that are learned. For all of us who are here, this marks the last virtual session we'll be having for the year. I think, for now, anyway. And so we're going to collate all of the various sessions and put them on our YouTube channel so that you can all go back, send the links to everyone so you can go back and watch them. Where the slides are available or where there are slides to share, we will also share them via email. Ajibike has put online links to Trello. She's put also her Gmail address for those who want to write to her directly. We look forward truthfully to welcoming everyone who will be part of the physical hackathon starting, I think, next Friday, for Friday and Saturday. We can't wait to have you guys. We're all prepared. We're all chuffed and ready to go. And I think that will mark the end of this session. Ajibike, thank you so much. We are grateful as usual. You've done so much justice, and I hope people continue to engage directly with you. Chinelo is asking, is this still open for application? I would think so, but I must state here that if you participated in last year's edition, it will not be open to you. Just saying, that's for Chinelo and co. Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. I've not seen 2 hours fly by so fast. It's amazing. I guess when you're learning a lot, you don't notice that time is flying, but indeed it is. Thank you so much, Baka, for bringing your team on board. Thank you, Monique. We look forward to engaging with you guys directly when you come in-house. And for all those other people who have been a blessing to us, who have joined and all, we'll see you guys online soon and then physically for the rest of us. Ajibike, any last words or are we done?
I'd just like to say thank you to you, Mr. Patrick, for Mr. Philip. Pardon me. I'm remembering the Patrick comment you left in the chat box.
I'm not Patrick.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's always a pleasure to answer whenever you call, and it's always a delight to share knowledge. Project management is something I'm passionate about, and every opportunity to share, pass on that knowledge is always a delight. And for every participant of this session, I do hope that you've gotten adequate value from this session. And if you have additional questions, please do not feel bad about reaching out to me on my email address. I'm very prompt to respond. And I hope to see your finished products down the line. Wishing you guys all the best.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll catch up with you online pretty soon. Have a lovely day, all of you. God bless you. Bye.